Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. Today, have another Invicta review for you guys. So, this is a watch I've had in my collection for quite some time now. I'd say this is one of my earlier Invictas, right when I first getting the, I was first getting that Invicta buzz, you know, where it's like, oh, I need every one they make. And this is a killer watch. This is a watch that does not get a lot of wrist time, and I'm going to explain, not really why, it just doesn't really, you know, it's just a watch that when I first got it, it was, well, let me just shut up for a second here. So this is the one we're going to be talking about today. This is the original, what I always personally call the Generation 2 Sea Hunter. Now, when you see this advertised or the Sea Hunter advertised, you're going to find a lot of different references to these different models. Unfortunately, the Sea Hunter doesn't have any kind of engraving or any kind of model number associated with the generation, right? So when you find this, you're going to find the model number, of course, but you're not going to find like it's a Gen 1, Gen 2 Sea Hunter. In this case, I don't even know if you're actually going to find the watch stating anything that says the word Sea Hunter, which is something that kind of always bugs me about Invicta. It's just like the Grand Octane or Grand Arsenal. That watch originally was called the Grand Arsenal, and then somewhere along the lines, they started calling it the Grand Octane, and that's what they're going with now. The Sea Hunter, we all know, if you're an Invicta lover, right, Invicta collector, you know this is Sea Hunter, but you will see this referred to as Gen 1? Now even I'm getting confused, right? So you'll see this referred to as Gen 1. This is technically, in my eyes, not Gen 1. You'll see the Gen 3s, Gen 4s now, and it just becomes very confusing. The reason why I call this the Sea Hunter Generation 2 is because you probably have to really hunt to find it, but they did come out with, after this, a different Sea Hunter, right? Or I'm sorry, before this or after this, I kind of forget exactly when that came out, but there was two different Sea Hunters. One just had a big giant shark on the front, and it was completely different. It was like a really cheap version of Sea Hunter. There's nothing about it that screams Sea Hunter. This is what you think of when you think Sea Hunter. Gigantic case, you know, although they did make this in a 50mm variation, this is the full-size 58mm version. So again, when this came out, then they came out with the newer version, or the ones that we're more familiar with nowadays, which has that gear-edged bezel, the large crown protector. And that was a huge improvement, and this is why I don't really wear this one that much anymore. The thing that always kind of bugged me about this watch is, although having that rubberized edge bezel might be really great to turn if it's wet, I don't think it's going to be any easier to turn than just like your standard gear edge bezel. It really digs into your fingers. It's just the design, right? It's just what they chose to do. And I think that the improvement they made really set the Sea Hunter apart and really stepped up the sales on the Sea Hunter watch. Still a great watch for the collection, don't get me wrong, but the reason I chose this one was because at the time when I was looking for a Sea Hunter watch, knowing it was the biggest watch Invicta makes, I had to have it. You know, I wanted something that was a little flashier, and a lot of the other Sea Hunters, I just didn't like the way they looked. This one here had that two-tone, and at the time, I really wanted something two-tone, plus it had that beautiful baby blue mother-of-pearl face. It's an incredible watch. This is a watch that you will see come and go. It's not completely discontinued, but it's hard to find. I think recently I saw this watch on Invicta stores. So if it is available, I'll put a link to where you can find it. You can usually find these older Invicta models on eBay. Again, price is really going to range. But let me tell you a little bit about my story with this. So this is one of those occasions where, and I want you guys to be careful, where I bought a watch that was considered a floor model, right? That's kind of what some of the sellers on eBay advertise these watches as. That they're watches that, and I can't state with 100% certainty that this watch didn't come from an Invicta boutique somewhere, but back when I bought this, there wasn't many Invicta boutiques. What I think is these watches are basically factory seconds, or watches that have been purchased and then returned. And some of these sellers, as a sneaky way of labeling them and selling them, say floor models. Because in our minds, when we think, oh, floor model, it's something that sat in a nice boutique somewhere, people trying it on, looking at it, it's going to have a little scuffs here and there. We don't think of it as the old terrible word used, right? And really that's what this watch is. It's used. Now again, at the time, this watch you couldn't find anywhere. It was gone, couldn't find it. And one pop-up on eBay, and I went ahead and bought it. I paid about $350 for this because I liked it so much. Hindsight, I wish I could go back because this watch did become available again for about $250 on Shop HQ or Invicta stores. I think it was Invicta stores. I think last time I saw it might have been on Shop HQ, and it was in the $3s. It is a watch that you will see come and go. However, when I bought this watch, it was purchased from a site or an eBay seller called let me think what it was. Invicta Outlet. Now, since then, they have changed their name, but I encourage you, if you do click the link in the description, I will put a link to their seller store, and it takes you to a new seller. That is Invicta Outlet. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get a watch from Invicta Outlet and have good luck with it, but I've had a couple occasions where, again, these watches were sold under false pretenses, and I don't think that this actually seller looks at the watches before they're being sent out or before they're even being listed. The problem with this watch is that when I asked them, hey, what does the watch have? And they will come back to you with, oh, it has normal wear and tear that you might find from somebody handling the watch. Few small blemishes. This watch had more than a few small blemishes. So the biggest problem with this watch is right on the side, you can see it has a dented crown. So this watch, I want you guys to really see that. See the big dent? Now, Fat Cat Collections would never drop a watch, okay? So this is something that came from the manufacturer, from the seller, with a dented crown. So this is not a lightly handled, slightly scratched. This is a drop, and this is a heavy watch to drop in the concrete. And you know, luckily the crown was probably screwed down and it didn't damage any of the internal mechanism, but nonetheless, it's still a pretty big dent. I probably would have bought it anyway with the dented crown, but maybe not for that price. My impression of this watch, when he had it listed, had no scratches in it. Well, this watch is pretty scratched up, but you can see right from the side here. I hope you can see. You probably can't. And this is why you got to be careful, because even on camera, I'm trying to really show you the scratches, and they're really hard to see. One is kind of a deeper one right on the top of the lugs here, or the link that connects to the lugs, and a few small scratches underneath it. That was how I bought the watch, under those pretenses, some scratches. So if I would have got the watch and said, oh yeah, it's got a few little scuffs here and there, it wouldn't really have bothered me. The other major issue with this watch is it has a, let's see here, if it's this one here, it has, pretty sure it's the watch. Pretty sure, unless it's, maybe I'm thinking of a different watch. Yeah, okay, so we're good to go on the crown. I thought this watch had a stripped function pusher, but maybe there was just something that was hung up there, or maybe spinning. I'm not really sure, because I swear that this watch had a stripped function pusher where the lockdown actually just spun once you tightened it down. But to be honest with you, maybe something caught in there, maybe something that was loose. I'm not really sure, but it's functioning properly. But when I did get it, I appeared to have a stripped function pusher, which I'm happy to say that it doesn't. So again, we have a big giant dent in the crown. Nonetheless, I'm still happy with the watch. I still kept the watch. I could have sent it back for a refund, but it was something that was on my radar for a while. And that's the thing with the Invicta watches. You just never know. If you don't buy it, you may lose out on the opportunity. I always tell the story about the Grand Octane with the black spinel around the bezel. They only made that for a blip, and you could find a few on eBay. What I call the Batman version was killer, black and blue. I actually have the Grand Octane in the non-spinel version, but there's something about stones on a watch. It just really set it off. And unfortunately, you snooze, you lose, and that's it. So a little bit about this watch as far as specifics, and we'll show you what it looks like on the wrist. It's a tank. And again, this, in my opinion, is the Generation 2, because they had a different Sea Hunter. Either that's the Generation 2 or this is. Remember, the Sea Hunter you guys see with the gear-edged bezel is technically the Generation 3, because they had other Sea Hunters. Now, again, this watch doesn't say Sea Hunter. Neither did the other generation or the other version I'm referring to. And this is why it's confusing for Invicta, because they'll create a watch, call it a Sea Hunter, market it that way, and maybe it's a watch that wasn't very popular, and you won't really see that Sea Hunter anywhere anymore. And now you're left with this confusion. Well, is it Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3? Kind of annoying. It would be nice if they actually engraved the generation on the back, and then maybe that's something they should, they'll start doing. But as far as this watch being readily available, and then I'll get to the specs on it in a second, and we'll show you what it looks like on the wrist. The model number again is, if I didn't tell you already, 13686. Let me just go ahead and head over to eBay real quick, and we'll see what we get here. 13686, 13686 Invicta. So, 13686 Invicta, there are no 13686 Invictas available. So this watch is completely rare again. Let me just double check, 13686, yep, Invicta, make sure I spelled it right here. Invicta, they have spell check on eBay. Yeah, so there's a few extra links on there selling for 17 to 25 bucks. Yeah, guys. Unfortunately, this watch is gone. Now, again, you may see it pop up on Invicta stores. You may see it pop up on Shop HQ. I'm not sure what causes the pop-up. If they decide, hey, we're going to make 100 of them and throw them out there. Not really sure. But the thing about this watch, again, is it has that rubberized bezel. Now, there is a Sea Hunter in this generation that was on my radar for a while, and it was the all-black combat version with a black mother-of-pearl face. And I feel like that black really fit that watch well. With this watch, it's so kind of flashy and blingy that I really feel like that bezel does kind of take away from the watch. Again, it doesn't mean it's an ugly watch. It doesn't mean I don't wear it, I don't like it. But I just feel like that would have been much nicer with that gear edge bezel. I'll be honest with you, I almost thought about trying to peel off this black rubberized coating on the side here, but I'm just not sure what it looks like underneath, and I really don't want to take away from the watch or ruin the watch in any way. If any of you guys have done that or had a watch that's failed for some reason, maybe, who knows what the circumstance may be, and you know what it looks like under there, let me know. I'd love to see a picture, because it is always something that I never really liked about the watch. But nonetheless, it is part of the watch. It is the original Sea Hunter design, and it's still a killer watch. What I love about this watch as well, that baby blue mother of pearl is just stunning, and I love the accents on there with that kind of light baby blue and the rose tone. Those rose tone polished links down the center, the Invicta logo on the bottom here, and you can even see, I believe the modern Sea Hunters actually say Sea Hunter on the clasp, but don't quote me on it. I don't have one in front of me, and I just don't remember. Again, with every Sea Hunter that you'll see, or most of them anyway, you have that furnace blue propeller. I think that's the coolest addition to the watch. I know guys have said in the past, does that turn? It doesn't, but it would be pretty cool, even though you don't see it, it would be pretty cool if Invicta did something like that, where that was part of the rotor, but I don't know how they would do that. But if anybody could, Invicta could. So pretty cool. This watch does have around the Swiss-made movement. Again, when it comes to Swiss-made, that doesn't mean it's necessarily made in Switzerland. Read up on that. You'll read all kinds of information about what that means, what that designation means. But it's nice that it does say it. A lot of guys do like the fact that it says that. Other than that, this has the awesome retrograde day of the week movement. And what happens here is, as the large pointer here, right up here at the 12 o'clock position, as this pointer starts to get closer to Saturday, on Sunday it'll snap back to the beginning. So it is one of my favorite Ronda movements of any of them. And the name of this movement, or the model of this movement, I think is the 8040N. And again, that's that retrograde day of the week. And a lot of guys really like, and I do too, the large day of the month at the 6 o'clock position. Very easy to read, nice, big, and bold. It's one of the nicest movements, in my opinion, that Ronda makes. I love it. If they had it in all my other Invictas, I would be ecstatic. But some of the other ones have the Zeds. That's the Z60. You'll find that in a lot of them. As far as band length, 222 millimeters, 30 millimeters in band width. It's a massive width. For some of you who are like, oh, I wouldn't mind changing the band out and kind of decorating this a little different, good luck. It's really hard to find 30 millimeter bands that it's hard to find 30 millimeter bands, or bands that are 30 millimeters wide. Good luck with that. I mean, I've looked for years, haven't really found much, and I'm not going to pay an arm and a leg for a new band. So make sure you get it with what you like. I think they have made this watch with some detachable bands, but I've always found that Invicta bracelets to remove from the case are really kind of tough to get off. So make sure if you do buy something, your intention is to change bands out. They buy something where they kind of maybe come with the bands, or I know you can get some of the Hercules. They've had a couple kits where you have like 3 or 4 bands that come with it, and what they do is they make these lugs or these pins more of the easy remove kind. I don't know, it's different for every watch. And again, like I remember years ago I had to send back a Venom watch in that two-tone mirror polished rose and yellow, my favorite color combination, because it had a band defect. It was a quick release band, but it was defective, couldn't fix it, had to send it back, which was disappointing because it was discontinued and I never saw it again after that. 58 millimeters in case size. Again, this watch is measured at the bezel. You'll see sometimes the Sea Hunter is measured at 73 or 63. The newer versions with the crown protector, it adds a lot of size to the watch. So they measure it at 63 all the way to the crown protector. With this watch, and like any watch, technically you're supposed to measure it at the bezel. So you can see, without having that giant function pusher and crown protector, It doesn't add much more to the watch. With the other versions, that's going to stick out quite a bit. So a little bit different, you know. I mean, as Invicta lovers, the bigger the better sometimes. You know, you probably want to go with the Generation 3. And if you look on eBay, and I'll put the links in the description where you can find this, you will see that watch referred to as the Gen 3 because of the videos I've put up, and I've labeled it Gen 3 based on, you know, the watches I've seen and when I made those videos. Flame Fusion Crystal, of course, mother of pearl face. It is a quartz watch, 300 meters of water resistance, and you got that 316 stainless steel with that, again, the mirror polished rose tone. You can see this watch does have some scratches. I hope you can see. I always say you can see, but I don't know if you can. This watch has been, you know, definitely worn quite a bit, and like all the Invictas, the plating technique they use, whatever it is it's fantastic. I haven't had any fail. I mean, you'll get some scratches, but that's to be said about anything, but it never scratches through. So it's great quality. I don't even wipe my watches down. It's probably a good idea before you put them away to wipe the oils from your body off them, because that is kind of acidic. You know, I've never had any problems inside the watch, outside the watch. They just make a really nice quality watch. There's really nothing else to be said about them. And that's really about it. So without further ado, let's throw it on the wrist. Now, the battery is dead in this. The battery's been dead in this for at least 4 years. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with the watch. It just needs a new battery here. Take off my Watch Star watches here. If you haven't checked out my video on that, check it out. So I'm about 5'7.5". I weigh about 175 pounds, and I have a 7-inch wrist. So this is a tank of a watch, and you can see it is just absolutely massive. This is a watch that if you're not used to wearing something this large, it might be a little uncomfortable for you. I know you'll watch the shopping networks and they'll tell you how, oh, these are super comfortable watches. And you know what? They're not uncomfortable. I don't think I've ever put on a watch that was like, oh man, this really hurts. Like, I don't think there's any watch out there that's made like that. I mean, you could really put anything on your wrist and it'll be all right. The real issue that you'll have with a watch like this is depending on your wrist and your body fat content. For me, you know, and a lot of us don't have fat wrists, right? But some have bigger wrists. For a 7-inch wrist, this is what it's going to look like, but it will dig into this. I think it's called the ulna. It's this bone in your wrist. And I will find that if I wear this for an extended period of time, like maybe 8 to 10 hours, maybe I'm going out doing something, depending on how much movement I'm doing, this might actually kind of irritate that bone. I've had situations where I have to not wear a Sea Hunter for a couple of days. So it is a tank of a watch. It does weigh over a pound, but you know, like any watch, I mean, I guess if you're really sensitive, you know, to anything on your wrist, you know, maybe stuff like this might be. I just think if you are a sensitive dude and you're sensitive to anything on your wrist, you're not even going to look at something like this, right? And there are people out there who want a small watch, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this just isn't a watch for you. But it is a tank. It is a beast of a watch. And with that mother of pearl, it really is a looker. Although it's one that doesn't get a lot of wrist time anymore, I still really fortunate to have it in the collection. And, you know, I will say that it's something, because I don't wear it all that much, it is something I've considered selling or throwing up on eBay. But that's the thing, like, you know, I'm not going to take a huge loss on these because it's not like I need the money. It's not like I hate the watch or anything like that. But it's one that doesn't get a lot of wrist time. And we all have watches like that in our collection. We see them, we get them, and then something else comes out, we just like more, right? But I tell you, you know, making these videos and kind of re-releasing these, it's kind of fun because all these watches I have, I forget about them sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do have that. And I put it on, and I'm like, man, that really is a killer piece. So most likely I'll wear this one today. It's a beast of a watch. And, you know, if you're lucky enough to get it, you know, you might find it again. The links I put in the description will always update. So if it becomes available on Invicta stores or becomes available on eBay, by clicking these links and checking them, you'll find out if somebody is selling one. The reason I haven't tried to sell this, and I only sell a watch if it's something that really doesn't get a lot of wrist time and I want to give it a new home and give it to somebody who's really going to appreciate it more. You know, and then I'll buy something else that I might like more at this time in my life, right? So with this one, I didn't do anything with it as far as selling it because of that little scratch and, of course, the dented crown. So I don't know, you know, I don't like to sell. I know you could be honest with people and tell them what it's going to have, of course, that you have that damage. But a lot of guys aren't going to want to spend $300 on a watch with this kind of damage, even though I did. But if you do watch the video and you have your heart set on this model, maybe it is a grail for you, let me know. I'll consider it. But most likely, I'm not going to part with it. It is a killer-looking watch. It's my only Sea Hunter. that has that mother of pearl. It's very noticeable. Whether you have a watch this big, it's nice to have a facets of a different type of material. I kind of use that argument with my abalone, the black on black. That abalone really pops, and with this, that mother of pearl really pops. I mean, it's a beast of a watch. It's a big personality watch right here. And if you guys, if you like the Invicta brand and you haven't picked up a Sea Hunter, I gotta be like, get one, man. You will love it. I think it's, of all the Invicta watches that I own, again, I know they're coming out with a lot of big Shack watches, but really, we can nitpick measurements. You might have one that's, it's a 70. Again, it depends on how Invicta. A lot of times, even Shop HQ in these stores, in the places selling them, they measure them incorrectly. They should really be consistent with bezel measurement and then overall measurement. This way you have an idea. I've almost bought watches before because they're like, oh, it's 73 millimeters. And then I look and I'm like, no, it's not. You'll find out that it's maybe 58, 56 at the bezel. And I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for, So this is a tank of a watch. You have, I believe this watch is 23 millimeters in thickness. It's right up there with your Venom watch, and again 58 at the bezel. It is a beast, over a pound. If you've worn, I'll tell you, if you've worn like a Venom watch or a Venom hybrid, and you're like, oh yeah, they're about a pound. If you put this on, you will notice a difference. These are over a pound, and that little bit extra, it makes all the difference. It's a big, heavy beast of a watch. Definitely, a Sea Hunter is definitely something I'll probably add again to my collection. But I will tell you guys that a lot of the new Sea Hunters that I've seen coming out, they don't really do much for me. So, originally this one and then that Generation 3 with that gear edge bezel, that's my favorite one. So, we'll see. I haven't seen them do a Sea Hunter hybrid, or now they're calling them fusions. That would be pretty cool. Do like a sub-aqua specialty band. I mean, we can all, I have to laugh sometimes when you guys call into Shop HQ and you get these guys who are just, I feel bad for like Invicta Ryans, because they're like, dude, calm down. Like, the Invicta guys can nerd out sometimes, and I get it, man. It's when we like something, we get passionate about it, myself included. I love the brand, but it's funny. You gotta do this, I've often done it too myself, where I'm like, oh, you gotta do the red label with. I try to keep it on wraps, but I do think a red label would be cool, like a blood red. See, I'm doing it now. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you like the content, do subscribe. If you have any questions, drop me a comment or drop me an email. That information's in the description of every single video. As always, with any of this product I review, you'll find the link to the product in the description, and also usually pinned in the comment section to the very top. And again, guys, have a wonderful day. Enjoy these watches. Be kind to one another, and take care.